call the meeting to order for the Financial Planning Committee. The agenda starts off with election of officers. So you'll need a nomination for a chair, generally is the first one. So anybody can make a nomination for a chair, then you guys can discuss.
John, are you interested?
Yes, Ken, I would be.
I nominate John Rapp to be chair of the committee.
I second.
All right, motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous? John, you're the chair. Congratulations.
Thank you. I have a nomination for vice chair. I nominate Susan Satori.
Second? Susan? you
It's
okay with
fine.
that? Okay. Second?
Vote of hands. Okay, unanimous.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Tim, do we need more than 2 officers,
Usually I
considering the
include-
size?
Even though I will be doing the minutes, but you should have a clerk.
Okay. We have an opening for clerk of the committee. We have any
That's the
nominations?
responsibility of the clerk.
Usually to do the minutes, but, if I was to send an email to the clerk, whoever that might be, that has minutes to be reviewed or whatever, it's really in ceremony at this point. There could be more formal duties, but we're gonna handle the minutes and the posting of the agenda.
I'm not
Nominations?
opposed as long as it stays ceremonial.
Nomination?
Yeah. Somebody has to nominate me, right?
I'll nominate Kent Carr.
Yeah.
Second.
I'll second that. Approved. Okay.
Thank you, Ken.
No.
Good.
Thank you.
The second item on the agenda is approval of meeting minutes from April 23. We're going to pass over that tonight and bring it back probably to the next meeting. Tim?
Yep.
And the third item is preliminary free cash plan. Is
My
Jason doing that?
Yeah, Jason has that, and just a little background here. Obviously, I started in December. Jason left in September, October, went to another community. Finance directors don't exactly grow on trees for municipalities. It's just, they don't teach it in school, so I had to reach back to Jason to get him to come back, and we're lucky to have him back. So he's prepared a lot of the details for this financial plan for you all. I mean, of course, I'm in the room, but he's done a lot of the work, and I want to let him shine on that particular piece. So speak of the devil, he's here. He's going to share with you the free cash plan. There's a lot of roles and responsibilities. I'll just give you a quick synopsis of my take of this committee. You are not only a sounding board, but a check and balance for the administration to make sure we stay on track with the 5, 10, or 15-year capital plan, looking at both needs and affordability of all the items that we're all considering as departments that we think we need to run. And having this group to vet those things through is critical to give us legitimacy and to know that community, but I don't live here. So to have community members look at what we're proposing and ask tough questions and get good answers and support those things is the role and the goal. Obviously, the charter has roles and responsibilities for the committee, which we can get to you and you can read those over. But that's, when the rubber meets the road, we just need to, we want a sounding board, we want to have a fully vetted capital improvement plan with the backdrop of affordability for the residents who live here. So that's my short introduction for the newest members, and John, you've been here the longest. So Jason, we're just starting on the preliminary free cash plan, so I know you prepared a lengthy memo. So if you want to cover that, or if you want me to hand it out for you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I apologize for my lateness. I was still waiting for these to print out on the printer. Yeah, here you go. Yeah, I got 10. So I think I got enough for Greg, Kelly, and Scott as well. All right, I assume I missed the election of officers and the approval of minutes.
Yeah, we passed over.
Okay.
Thank you.
John is the chair.
Okay, John's the chair.
Susan's vice chair. Ken is the clerk. And we're passing over the meeting minutes, line item number 2 to our next meeting.
Okay. All right. Thanks. All right, so starting with the preliminary free cash plan, I stapled these in the wrong order, so if you go down a few pages in, you'll see a memorandum, and it'll look familiar. It looks similar to prior year's free cash plans. As part of the town's fiscal policies, comprehensive fiscal policies that were adopted by the select board in starting in 2010, I believe. It calls for a free cash plan to be developed each year, and the free cash plan helps us determine how much money will be available for capital projects, and as a best practice, we try to align free cash as a one-time revenue source with one-time uses, which is capital articles. So we go through the free cash plan in order to start vetting these capital articles and assembling financing sources and linking financing sources to the different articles. So like I said, a few pages in, our free cash was certified at $3.57 million. What that means is that free cash, for those people listening at home, free cash is a combination of what was unspent from the prior year's free cash balance, is basically retained earnings or, the fund balance, if you will. It's the money that's left over and available for us to spend in the next year. The state goes through a process of certifying free cash, so we went through the process of that. And $3.6 million is basically the retained earnings for the town has carried over from the prior year. So this is generated from unused free cash from the prior year, plus balances expenditure budgets from the prior year that have closed out, in addition to revenue that's come in above budget. So because the town had left unspent $460,000 from the prior year, that means the town generated, to get to $3.57 million, the town generated $3.11 million over the course of the year. That was a result of revenues and transfers coming in at $1.9 million above budget, and then expenditure budgets closing out at $1.38 million. So going through this amount of free cash, the goal here was to see if the town could continue doing some of the usual things that it does with free cash, which is fund a lot of its recurring articles. The first being the Appropriations Committee's reserve fund at $175,000, that's proposed here. The FY25 operating budget at $500,000 to underwrite the town's operating budget. And then make a contribution to the stabilization fund at $200,000. And then that means what's left over under the typical plan and method would be $2.2 million for capital projects. And that would leave $500,000 of unspent free cash to carry over to the next year. And typically, $500,000 of this balance has been targeted so that it would carry forward to the next year, and that would be the operating, at worst case scenario, if we generated nothing, we'd have $500,000 to carry over to the operating budget for the next year. So basically, $500,000 as free cash would be left. The town has approximately $5.7 million in its stabilization fund currently. So this plan here would maintain a balance of 8% in its reserves as in relation to the operating budget. The town's fiscal policies call for us maintaining a balance of 5 to 10%, so we're well within those guidelines with this plan. Going forward, I know on like one of the second or third pages, you'll see an entry for the fire station, and I want to put a big disclaimer on there that that's an estimate. It's just a very rough number, and it's subject to change. All these numbers are subject to change as we work through this process this year. So, starting with the detail on the second page. Sorry, I'm jumping around. I'm moving into the,
Where is it?
oh, I'm sorry, going back to the beginning.
This way?
Yeah. Yeah, if you flip back to the start. Oh, I'm sorry. There you go, back here.
Oh.
So, the second page, you'll see a fire station renovation project, $30 million. That's not included in the capital budget here this year. That's proposed to go forward in the fall to a special town meeting. And like I said, $30 million is a rough number. It's basically the original number from the feasibility study and inflated 7% a year, and then an additional amount like to deal with the delay from the original numbers. It may not be $30 million. That number may change as that process continues.
I'll just, not to put too fine a point on it, the committee is meeting tomorrow. They have architect estimate on the cost. They'll talk about that tomorrow at the meeting. So that number will be known, or not known, but the estimate will be available tomorrow. So it'll be more precise once they have their meeting. Sorry.
But anyway, in terms of a rough number, $30 million was the number used, because we want to project a fairly realistic number for financial projections going forward so people can make informed decisions whether it's affordable or not as we go through this plan. So the balance of the plan was $4,697,000. These are simply all the requests that have come through and people that you'll see, and they'll present to you about their articles. They're categorized by, these are proposed funding sources. So free cash here matches what's in the free cash plan, the $2.2 million. We have the school department here tonight to present on their proposed plan, which may have changed since I put this together. So anyway, like I said, a lot of these numbers are subject to change. This is the first pass through this. The other available funds that we're using in this plan to fund this capital budget would be, let's see, we have, the question came up over, the article of the police station exterior repairs. We would be reappropriating the $70,000 approved for painting. I believe that, not to get into too much of the weeds of this before the police station's presentation, but I believe the wooden siding was determined to be damaged or degraded too much to go forward with the painting project. So they're proposing a siding project at $200,000. So in that case, the balance that would be needed would be $130,000 because $70,000 is still sitting in the article unspent. Other available funds, there's a short-lived provision where when we borrow money on the tax exempt market, sometimes we'll receive what's called a premium. It's money that's paid in addition to the face value of the bonds or notes that we borrow. There's a short-lived provision that occurred between 2016 when the Municipal Modernization Act passed and a technical fix was put in place where the only thing that the residual premium money can be used for would be for capital projects of an equal or longer life. So there's about $20,000 in this plan to reappropriate some of that money as we look down the other available funds column.
So Jason, if you went out to 10-year or 30-year bonds, you'd have to apply it to projects of that duration, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, under the statute, if the premium was a result of a 20-year project, you'd have to apply it to another 20-year project.
Yep.
And that's just for a short-lived period of time because the rules changed. There's a technical fix to the law in 2021 where anything following that, like there's an less cumbersome way of dealing with it. There's $600,000 that was released from what's called overlay, and that's proposed to be used for a couple of the DPW projects. And under the schools project, there's what was a green repair project. It's one of the oldest capital projects we have in the books that had a cash balance left in it. So we're suggesting in this plan reappropriating, and Greg's in favor of this, reappropriating the money out of that 2011 article. The cash that's remaining, there's $95,000 being suggested to be reappropriated out of that article, similar to the police station article. The enterprise fund maintain their own free cash balances, so the projects that are, the capital outlay that's related to the enterprise funds is gonna be funded from current funds that the enterprise funds have in retained earnings. And lastly, the balance of this, there's a fire truck that is the most expensive item on here, and that would have to be covered by borrowing, given the amount of money that's available. And that's $980,000 at the end of this.
So that's in addition to the one we approved last year.
Correct.
And the debt service would be covered under raise and appropriate, so under the levy
Yeah.
limit, so just,
Yeah,
it's not a
it's-
debt exclusion.
Understand, yeah. Jason, do you want to comment on the fact that we have a 6-year financial trend monitoring system? If not
Correct.
tonight,
Yeah.
some other time for
Yeah.
our new committee members?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I went through this very quickly, and I know there's a lot of new members here. Typically, every year, and this year's not a usual year, again, we're doing a lot of this stuff last minute, as was evidenced by me coming here 5 minutes after the start of the meeting with the paperwork in hand. So typically, around December, we do what's called a financial trend monitoring system, and thanks for reminding me, John. Typically, we do a 10-year look back and try to identify problematic trends to make sure the town's fiscal health is strong. And then we do a 5-year projection into the future, and then we use these capital plans to develop the 5-year projection into the future to see how the debts, when we borrow $1 million for a fire truck this year, that won't have an impact for a couple of years to taxpayers. So there's a delayed effect here. So if we approve a $30 million project, it's not next year that we're paying $30 million. It will transpire over a number of years, and then the debt service will be out 30 years or something like that into the future. Our financial projections are typically 5 years into the future, but you'll see that coming into the window when there's bigger projects out there. So we try to model all of that so that people can make informed decisions about these articles. So typically that process happens in December. So we're well into that initial planning process before we get into these hearings with departments and so forth. Right now, I haven't prepared those because we're still assembling all this information in real time at this point.
Right. And in the past, especially coming into COVID, coming out of COVID, certain capital projects that were targeted for 1 or 2 or 3 years out may have been bumped or escalated depending on the urgency of what is occurring, right?
Correct, yeah. So we try to align them so they fall into the right years based on what money's available that year and the resources that are available and the other things that are going on.
Aside from not having been able to do the 5-year projection, can you at least look at this year in your projections from last year? Are we coming in pretty much at the way it looked for what we have for cash available and?
Right, there's no new debt hitting, so this is, there's not a lot new to model within this.
We don't have to get very upset that we don't have a model to follow this year.
Correct, because this is all current resources, and then nothing's being proposed to be a debt exclusion here. Again, a much more informed decision will have to be made about the fire station. That's a significant project at $30 million. And typical to municipal projects, the last big project we did was the Lincoln Street School, which was, I think, concluded 2016, and the fire station's proposed to be a larger dollar value than that, even though it's a smaller project in scope. Every project, the next project is the biggest project we've ever done, so that's typically how it works.
On the fire station, it's listed here as addition/renovation, but I think what you're talking about is actually building a new fire station.
Yeah, correct, yes.
You should probably mention,
Yeah.
this document is a rolling creation from years and years ago. So as, you know, 4 years ago, it might have been maybe a renovation, maybe a build. If they didn't know at the feasibility stage, they were putting something on paper so they can have the TBD.
Yeah, I think that's simply a typo. It's construction. That would be the construction phase of the project,
Okay.
because there's a separate phase for plans and land acquisition, so it is construction.
The question I have for you is not so much in this year's capital plan as much as when and how will we start to look at all of the projects that are being proposed throughout the town? Very exciting new look to the town, new fire stations in there, but we've got other issues going on. And when will we start fitting those in? Because are they gonna come before us and start to put them into the capital plan?
Yes.
I don't see them down on the list of some of the people that might wanna come in. I
Um,
mean, we've got a project going that's just right now looking for a grant from the planning board in regard to, Blake Street.
Okay.
That's something that should be inserted in there. So how
There's-
and when will we start to do that?
Well, the instructions typically go out to the departments to feed these capital requests back to
Okay,
the administrator's office. In terms of like the downtown revitalization, there is an item in here, like if you look into the details on the second page, under town administration, other town departments, there's a downtown revitalization project, phases 1 to 3. I know FY '25 is blank because I know that ARPA was allocated, the ARPA funds were allocated toward the project, getting that project started this year. But that amounts to, over the 6 years, you know, about $9 million. So I think that might be what you're talking about, Sue. But,
there's just so many things I mean, we're talking about building potentially a brand-new town hall.
There's
That hasn't even been fully vetted yet, so we
Right.
have no idea.
Right.
And again, for me, and not to go off, we want to know where we're not going to go. We could end up here and it'll be fine. Then I know what I'm doing with the other 3 locations, Pierce Street, White Cliffs, and 4 West Main. So once they hopefully decide that in the next couple of weeks, where we're not going to go, and then we can start to figure out how we either use those as economic drivers, sell them outright, whatever the town considers to be the most
Okay.
advantageous. So it wouldn't be on this plan to see that yet, because we don't even,
Right.
we're at an embryonic stage with that.
But we kind of only meet once a year, right before town meeting, to take a look at this current year's plan. So maybe we could consider having some meetings in the fall before a fall town meeting to see where we are with some of those projects. Do you think that might be helpful?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely helpful to try to roll these out and be as accurate as possible with, you know,
Yeah.
the needs and the,
It's not my expectation that we be doing it now, but we have to have a keen eye on where we're going.
We have to be flexible too, to provide information to the community. So this FTMS thing we didn't do in December, when we get through this process, we have to do that. Maybe it's June, maybe it's September, but we have to do it again so people can see what that model is 5 years out.
I just think we're in a different set of circumstances, and so we might just have to think out of the box a little bit about our job here.
well, in the plan, I have $20 million plugged in for
Okay,
the
kind of
town,
wanna
for the
know
town office building. I don't know how accurate that is, but
Yeah.
it's something. It's not 0, so.
It's good that it's not 0.
And the fire station will be brought to a special town meeting later in the year for a vote, not at the April meeting.
And then the goal for the ballot question will be the presidential election, so there'll be massive turnout, I'm sure. So you'll know pretty quickly
Right.
where people stand.
And that concludes my presentation
Thanks.
for tonight. If there's any questions, I'm happy to, or additional
Just
questions.
an observation, on the bottom of one of these spreadsheets, there is a code source of funds, and there's numbers 1 through 8, so you'll see 2/6 or whatever on many of these. It foots to the bottom in terms of what it is.
So it's on this page here. if you're trying to find
Yeah.
it. We'll do a better job of page numbering and get you the right setup. So we can email that out tomorrow.
And in prior years, that's carried forward to what goes on the warrant for town meeting, so people will see that in terms of what's the source of funds for A, B, or C. Good, great. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Jason, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Martineau, are you next? Welcome.
Good evening, Greg Martineau, Superintendent. Thank you for inviting us in this evening, and with me is,
Kelly Gannett, Chair of the Northborough School Committee.
and this evening our goal is to present the capital plan and specifically the projects that we plan to move forward in FY '25. I will start with some great news and some success stories around capital planning and projects through a partnership with the town and using ARPA funding. We have replaced the flat portion of Proctor roof, so that project is nearing substantial completion. So that was a very successful project. It lasted a little bit longer than we hoped, but that seems to be the tenor of all projects that we move forward with. The second successful project that moved forward was making Z entrance, the back entrance by the gym, accessible, so ADA compliant. That was another successful project that took place over the summer. And then at the regional level, the athletic complex, that was a significant large-scale project. And we're nearing completion of phase 1, which is 2 new turf fields, resurfacing of the track, creation of a new grandstand, and amphitheater. And phase 2 of the project will be looking at the amenities building. So we've definitely benefited from the community's support of the schools and maintaining its assets. So thank you. In terms of looking at FY '25, and I do apologize to Tim and Jason, we did make some last minute changes to our plans. The capital plan is an important part of the work that the school committee moves forward and the district implements. The plan was voted on November 1st, so it has been some time since the plan was approved. And since then, a number of changes have taken place for the positive. And I'd just like to review some of the highlights of the projects that we hope to move forward this year. First, I'll note that partnering with the town, when they, and I'm just looking at the Jason's capital plan for the
Susan, I think it's back there.
Back to page
Oh,
3.
back
Yeah.
page 3.
Oh, it's not here?
Yeah, that's it.
So when vehicles from the town come off lease, all departments are asked if there's any value of the vehicles. So last year, we made a plan to partner with the DPW as it renews its vehicle fleet. We plan on purchasing one of the trucks. The conversation that we had is that we are going to purchase it at the regional level and share the purchase at the regional level with both Southborough and Northborough. So that has been removed from the pre-K through 8 capital plan. The other addition or change was the camera system upgrade at Lincoln Elementary School. Although it's a relatively new building, technology advances rather quickly, and when the system was spec'd, it was in 2014, it was a proprietary camera system, and it has, the company has since gone out of business. Since November, since we developed this plan, we have learned of a way that we can utilize the cameras that are existing with some upgrading of some of the back-end equipment at a much less cost than $100,000, which was what we were quoted for originally. So we actually have removed this warrant article from the list. Peasley Elementary School, so there is only one project that we are recommending for Peasley Elementary School. The district did submit a statement of interest for the Mass School Building Authority, a program to look at the core building program for Peasley. it's a very competitive process, and the town of Northborough was invited into the eligibility period to study Peaslee and think about what's the future for that building. As a result, we're not moving forward with any capital projects because we do intend kind of to move through that process and really think about what the next generation of Peaslee Elementary School will look like. Unfortunately, Peaslee does have asbestos, and we're required every 3 years to inspect the building. During our latest inspection, there was a finding that the chimney in the boiler room, the asbestos was falling off the chimney, and we're required to repair that. It's a hazard, and that cost is $30,000. That's a required repair that will be part of the capital plan for this year. Proctor Elementary School, we have a lower retention walls and stairway and repaving. That was listed as $105,000. Near the back parking lot, there is a retaining wall that is in disrepair. We are pushing that out a year. We made some minor repairs that we think we can gain a few years from the wall. So we are pushing that out and not moving that forward in this year's plan.
So 105 you're pushing out the whole
Yeah,
amount?
so that will not, we are removing that as a capital project for fiscal year '25. At Melkin Middle School, and I believe Jason did touch upon this, we have a hot water system upgrade as well as pneumatic control repairs. There is money from the green repair funding to complete those. And I guess the question I did have for Tim and Jason, is that going to be a separate warrant article, or would that be a different funding mechanism?
It would be a warrant article, but
Okay,
the,
but
but
funded
the
through-
funded,
Okay.
funding source would be the prior article.
So those three will be part of the warrant article that we're moving forward with. And that is the balance of the capital projects that we're moving forward with in pre-K through 8 Northborough. Just other points of interest, we also have submitted a statement of interest to MSBA for the accelerated repair program, which focuses on roofs and boilers and windows. So we did submit a statement of interest for the Z roof. So we are pursuing that. In terms of reimbursement for projects through MSBA, Lincoln Street reimbursement was 53%. So the state funded that project at 53%, and 47% was the responsibility of the town. So it is good value to kind of move projects forward. As part of MSBA's accelerated repair project, they're also looking for opportunities to put solar arrays on roofs. So part of the work that we're doing is we are moving forward a warrant article to propose leasing roofing space at Proctor Elementary School, Lincoln, and Z. And Z is if we get a new roof. So we are moving those forward. If those three projects move forward, it will represent a substantial amount of electricity usage from solar and reduce electricity costs substantially. With Proctor's new roof, it's prime for a solar array. Lincoln Street renovation, that roof is in a great position to accept solar. And Z, if we are invited into the MSBA's accelerated repair project, that will be an addition as well. So that's some of the forward thinking we're trying to do, is to see how we can offset some of the costs for these capital projects.
If I may ask a question?
Sure.
You have pneumatic control repairs, and you have listed as new?
Yeah, so new to the capital plan,
Oh.
not new.
Can I help? I prepared this. The purpose of this is, it's a 6-year plan, so typically the projects come in on the out years and they move up year to year. These jumped ahead to this, they were submitted new this year, so that's why they've been highlighted on these pages.
Okay, so I guess to go back to my question is, pneumatic controls for HVAC is really old school,
It is.
right? So has any talk been made about going digital?
So the system is original, to Melican, built in
I'm not
1971. I think this is just to make the current system operational. There's a much larger conversation around what repairs are required for Melican Middle School, not only in HVAC, but the overall site and condition of the building. This would allow, this capital project would allow us to repair it so it's functional. Right now, there are.
Is it functional?
It is functional, but not working efficiently. So the third floor, for example, it's hard to control the dampers because of the pneumatic controls. This repair would allow us to control the dampers on the second and third floor.
Okay.
And you have the Melican Middle School out on feasibility study for 2029,
Correct.
so we know you need to get it done to at least get to that part and on.
Correct.
Could you tell me, do you know off the top of your head what your electric bill has gone up percentage-wise in the last year?
Well, we do have a partnership with the town. So we use Power Options, and we have a fixed rate. So we did negotiate that, I believe, Jason, a year ago.
Yeah,
November. Yeah, so.
catching me off guard. I don't know the
yeah,
answer
so
to
it
that.
was about a year ago from November, so we had fixed our rate. So we didn't see a significant increase.
Good.
Probably a 7 to 10% increase.
Okay.
And I'll just note too, at Algonquin Regional High School, we do have a solar array. That was a proof of concept. And that was a savings to the Algonquin Regional High School of about $50,000.
Excellent. Congratulations.
You, Greg, you used the term leasing when talking about solar panels on the roof. Are you talking about actually leasing the panels, or are you talking about generating the electricity and selling it, reselling it out to?
So the leasing actually is leasing the roof space, because
Right,
it's
okay.
owned by the town, so it's actually leasing the real estate.
Got it.
Our plan is to enter into a power purchasing agreement, so the solar panels would be owned by a third party, and we would partner with that third party. They would own solar, and we'd get the benefit of the electrical savings.
Okay, awesome.
And obviously, the overage goes to the grid, right?
It does. So, you know, in the proposal, some of the solar arrays would generate more electricity. Those would then waterfall to the other schools.
Yep.
And then eventually, the remaining would be credited back to the grid.
Okay.
I have to say kudos to the school department for going ahead and getting started with solar. Very impressive, thank you.
It's been a few years in the works.
Yes. Yes. Any other questions?
Yes, for you and probably Jason, what do you see or hear about the current environment coming from Beacon Hill relative to grants, the state of grants and funding? I'm hearing varying things coming out of the governor's office and their budgets and what does or doesn't trickle down. Your experiences, gentlemen, ladies?
Well, I mean, I think we're pretty close to getting the maximum we're gonna get out of the Chapter 70 formulas, and other than that, I know, it's like through the COVID era, there was the ESSER grants that came through that underwrote the school budgets for the past couple of years, and I know those aren't continuing from the federal level. On the state level, there's legislation being proposed, but I'm not really sure how much actual additional funding that would result in for the school district. I don't know what you've heard, Greg.
No, I mean, I concur. I think that the governor's budget funded education for the town of Northborough as we had projected, so there were no surprises. That's always important. And typically, the governor's budget is the floor. In the House and the Senate, as it moves through the process, we might see an increase in Chapter 70 for the town of Northborough. But again, Northborough is considered a fairly wealthy community relatively to its peers. And therefore, if we do see an increase in Chapter 70, it's usually either $30 per student or $60 per student, and results a little under $50,000. The areas where we are impacted is at the regional level with regional transportation. Although the region receives the regional transportation, it does have an impact to our pre-K through 8 Northborough schools and overall transportation costs. So that projected number is coming in at a number that we anticipated. And then lastly, special education funding is circuit breaker, which offsets special education costs for out-of-district placements. And that is, there are no surprises in that funding mechanism as well. The budget is being impacted by ESSER funding being expended. We're required to expend ESSER funding by the end of fiscal year '24. We've tried not to create structural deficits with the ESSER funding, but it's difficult when you have that money and you're trying to offset your budgets. And we did try to use that for one-time purchases or one-time repairs. So that is something that we will not see in FY '25. That does have an overall impact of the operating budget.
Thank
And John, I just add that we use in our budget modeling that we've been working through, we've used the governor's budget, revenue budget, and that is a 1.46% increase over the prior year, and that amounts to $87,000. You know, so that it's relatively, the state share of the town's budget is decreasing every year as we progress. And, you know, so $87,000 in comparison to an $80 million budget is fairly insufficient. It's insufficient to continue.
Right. I do recall you having some histogram on that last year, showing, you know, what that's gone from down to where it might be now,
Yeah,
and
we
potential
typically
projections.
Not to keep going back to the financial trend, but in the financial trend, there's a model that shows the relative amount of state aid to the town budget, and it just shows it's a line that's going down.
Yep, okay.
So what fills the gap in is taxes, basically, property taxes.
Right.
The only other funding mechanism that we're advocating for is the increase in MSBA's cap for core building programs and accelerated repair projects. That is legislation that is moving forward. That would have a significant impact to all communities that access those funds. We would be able to move forward more roof projects, more window projects, heating systems, core building programs, and that's a significant reimbursement to cities and towns and communities. So that is something we're monitoring closely and will continue to advocate for.
What's the timing on that?
I haven't checked. I know legislation was filed. I know that MASC, the Mass Association of School Committees, and the Mass Association of School Superintendents are advocating for that to move forward. So I can check and get back to the
Just,
committee.
I don't know if it's 6 months or 2 years.
I'm hoping this legislative process. So.
That would be very exciting, because back in 2000, the townspeople the school committee wanted to put forward all of the schools to be redone at one time, and that just wasn't going to work. So we've gotten a Proctor School, we've gotten a Z School, and we have the Lincoln Street School, and we have the high school. In the meantime, those schools that I've just mentioned, except for Lincoln Street, have gotten old. So it would be really great if the state could come in and help us with the capital needs to keep our buildings in good shape. So.
And I think
And
that-
then allow us to get the other schools done that never did get done.
Yeah. And I also think if we look at the capital project of the Proctor roof this past year, you know, typically we would have applied for the accelerated repair program. We would have been reimbursed at approximately 50%. They paused that program, and there was a need for us to move forward with it because it was a significant issue for Proctor. So that's the type of example that it does have a significant impact on the dollars the community spends on these types of projects.
And Greg, that was a big ticket item, it was like $1.7 million, right?
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I can move on to the high school. So the Algonquin Regional High School is the largest asset for both communities of Northborough and Southborough. It's 350,000 square feet. It was renovated in the early 2000s. The bond for that renovation will be paid off in June of 2028, I believe.
28?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're coming to the end of that debt being paid off. Our intention has been to not make any major significant investments until we've paid off that renovation project, and then really start looking at what are the capital projects that need to be moved forward. roofs, windows, heating systems, and really maintaining that community asset. The 5-year capital plan does identify a number of projects that need to take place. The approach the school committee took this year is to amortize the projects over a 5-year period. So if you look at the total cost over the 5-year period, it's about $2.5 million. The school committee strategy is to assess each of the communities approximately $400,000 to $500,000 a year over that 5-year period to accomplish the 5-year capital plan. For larger projects, heating system replacements, roofs and windows, those will be capital articles. But $400,000 of approximately $28 million is about 1.5%. 1.5% to maintain a building of about 350,000 square feet is not a lot of money. It's an excellent repair. The team, what's the team? The custodial team does an excellent job maintaining it and takes great pride. And I think if you walk through Algonquin, it shows. But this year, the projects that are important to move forward with are some repairs to the boiler motor, adding some glycol in the heating loop, updating some of the lighting controls. There's a failed RTU over the guidance department, and those are the major projects that we plan to move forward with. Typically in the past, we would have articles in both communities. We would move through Southborough's town meeting. If it passed, we would then bring it to Northborough's town meeting. If it passed, then we'd move forward with the projects. That doesn't give you great certainty of whether the project's going to be passed.
Yeah.
So for these smaller projects, our strategy is that $500,000 assessment to the operating budget over the next 5 years.
Right, so, can I just clarify? So Greg said $2.5 million, and if you look at this, the total comes to $1.6 million. And this has been projected out using the town's estimated enrollment at 62%, or 61.94%. So that's just like the discrepancy between the two numbers. So I use Greg's plan, just like if you're looking at that and you're worried that I missed a bunch of stuff, it's because this is at Northborough share, and Southborough shares the assessment with, Northborough and Southborough share the assessments. So we pay based on our relative enrollment percentages at the school, so we own a larger share of it, but this is adjusted down to reflect that percentage.
So the Northborough percentage is 61.91%, totaling $242,077. Then Southborough's portion is 38.09%, and that's $148,922. So when you look at the assessment shared between two communities, and that's the strength of a regional system, you get great value.
My only question is in regard to the regional agreement. The language in there would allow you to be able to do this, there's no
Correct,
problem?
yes.
Okay.
And I do owe Jason and Tim a copy of the regional agreement. Yes, so we reviewed this with legal counsel.
Okay, good.
We reviewed our regional agreement, and there is a mechanism to allow us to do this.
Okay, great. I'm glad to hear that.
And just out of curiosity, what are the enrollment trends in the schools here?
We, so over the past decade, we've seen declining enrollment of about 10 or 11%. We are right now at kind of the floor of enrollment, and over the next 10 years, we'll see an increase of about 10%. So we're in a V trend. We're at the plateau right now, and we'll be climbing the next several
Okay.
years.
I think one thing that people don't realize though is they think that since enrollment's been down, that means we've got room in our school for more students, but we're really at capacity of our buildings. So even though the enrollment numbers are down, that doesn't mean we have 10% extra to come in. necessarily.
Is that enrollment rate the same for Southborough or less?
It's similar.
Okay.
And if you look at enrollment trends in New England, this was predicted and projected, and an increase over the next 10 years is predicted and projected. But we are, for the first time, when we look at assessments and the impact of an assessment to each of the communities, there's parity, where in the past we've seen an assessment of 10% to one community and 0% in another.
Right.
Our projection for the next few years is that there will continue to be parity, which makes the budget process a lot more predictable for the towns.
Is that due to that contribution factor? Is that more in line, or what's
It's
causing that?
the Chapter 70 funding formula, and it is part of the formula. It's the wealth factor, it's enrollment,
Okay.
There's 6 factors that go into it, but primarily it's because enrollment stabilized in both communities. So if
Okay.
you see a 2% change in enrollment from year to year, that can have a significant impact on the overall assessment.
Okay. All right.
It's
While we're talking about enrollments, I know this is about the high school right now. Would you mind talking a little bit about your thoughts on enrollments in the town of Northborough K through 8? And how you're gonna try to take care of potentially the overcrowding in the schools to work out parity between the schools? And actually, how many youngsters really don't go to their neighborhood schools now? Last time I knew anything about this, it was about 12% of them. Is that still
Correct.
pretty much in line?
So when we look at enrollment of our pre-K through 8, at our elementary schools, we have a neighborhood school model. So any shift in construction, house sales, has an impact to that neighborhood school. So it's not distributed proportionally across all 4 of our elementary schools. So what we find is, for example, when Avalon was built, it significantly impacted Proctor Elementary School in terms of enrollment, where we didn't have parity in class size from Proctor to our other elementary schools. So we would have a 2nd grade class with 28 students, and we may see the same grade level section at Z with 15 kids. So the school committee developed a policy to create parity in class size, and through that, we cap class sizes at the school committee policy for class size. So it's 20 in grades K through 2 and 22 in grades 3 through 5. Once we reach the cap in that grade level, any new students who enroll in that neighborhood school are redistricted to another neighborhood school that has space. So that's how we balance out enrollment. The challenge is transportation. So now we have buses that are traveling longer distance, crisscrossing through the community. And, I think one of the advantages of having neighborhood schools is you get to know your neighborhood families, your neighborhood peers, and some of our students do not have that experience. So about 12% of our students at the elementary level are redistricted to other neighborhood schools as a result.
And are you still contemplating reconfiguring once you find out what's going on with the Peasley School?
Yeah, so part of the feasibility study will be for us, for the town, to look at enrollment trends and look at different scenarios. So part of MSBA, they require communities to really vet all of the various options that should be considered. So part of the options we'll be looking at, is it a renovation? Is it a rebuild? Is it a grade configuration change? And then the best option is determined, and that is brought forth for the community for a vote. So that work will take place through the MSBA process.
Okay, great, thanks.
Any other questions? No. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Nice job.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Our next agenda item is the meeting schedule. So next Tuesday, the 5th, we have the DPW capital request as well as water and sewer at 7 PM here. Tim, right?
Yeah, we were gonna ask if, because We're trying to see if we can do any early. Can we do any earlier than 7? Just because we have a lot of ground to cover. We don't have to do it, but if you can, do a 6.
I love that you're asking it, because I was gonna raise the question. I'm seeing a trend that so many committees start to meet earlier. You guys are working like demons to get everything done. If you have the time, if we could get started a little bit earlier, you might get out a little.
Yeah, we do. We would prefer to meet at 6, but I mean, we're sensitive to everybody's schedules.
I'm fine, but everybody else would have to chime in.
I can go earlier.
Okay.
It's primary day, is that gonna impact us at all? Tim? Jason?
She said.
Where are they gonna be? No, they won't be voting here for primary.
No, they're in
They'll
the
be in the
schools.
schools.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think you'll be
Fine,
fine.
okay. So Tuesday, the 5th, at what time?
6?
6 PM? Does that work?
Thank you.
All right, so can I just raise one note to you, John? I think we're still working on the police and the fire to schedule them. Would you folks be comfortable with us adding that in as they're available?
You're gonna have to, I mean,
Okay.
we can't ignore them, yeah.
All right, so
Obviously.
this may come through with some revisions on the dates with,
Meaning you double up some of them, or you would carve out a separate date, or both?
yeah.
Okay. Bring it to the committee. Bring it to the committee.
Okay, so,
So right now, we have the 5th, and then the 12th with, CPC projects, and then is it a penultimate review of the capital budget at that point in time, on the 12th?
yeah, I mean, I think there's an extra week built into the schedule in case we need to carry over to another week if
You have
things
some
get.
flexibility of 1 week
Yeah.
in between.
Yep. Then the select board is the 25th, and town meeting is April 22nd at Algonquin. Okay.
Typically, the 25th is the watermark, the March 25th is the watermark for when we need to be finished with everything, and everything, we can't change any numbers at that, we're not gonna
You
change
gotta
any
go
numbers
make,
at that point.
you gotta go make the sausage, right?
Yeah,
To
at that
be
point,
able to
we,
get the warrant done. Yeah, okay. Any other questions?
So we still have 2 other departments, right? Using the police and the fire.
the police and
right?
fire aren't on this schedule,
So
but,
when are we gonna fit them in?
well,
We're trying to determine.
We're trying to
their
determine-
availability.
figure out their
The police
availability.
have the conflict. So we're trying to fit them in either in next week, which would be a huge meeting for you, which we don't want to do, and then the week with his flexibility, we might add him in to
Yeah, so-
that third week in March.
So we're talking adding another day.
Yeah, it'll be
Okay,
another
okay.
2.
I'm not being confrontational. I
No,
just
no, no,
wanna-
I got you.
So why don't we put in the schedule a tentative day for the
Right.
meeting?
right, I just don't think we were able to confirm with the department heads that.
But I'm
they're
saying
It
for
available.
doesn't
us to
matter,
put
right?
it, put a day in, and if we don't meet, but at least
Okay.
we can plan on a day.
Do you think that Thursday is a hindrance for the people you're trying to schedule with? Do we need to look at a different day, or is Thursday still something you're working with?
Tuesdays and Thursdays, we're trying to do.
I mean, sorry, Tuesday.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
Tuesday,
Thursday.
Thursday's AC, and Tuesday is this group, so. I mean, I haven't talked to the chief about his particular schedule, but let's just add that third date.
That's the 19th?
On Tuesday.
Because the week of the 18th, the week of the
Whoever
18th
we
is
get will be before you.
wide open on this schedule.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
just we'll put it in, and
Just add it.
yeah, okay.
Okay.
it can kind of give someone a little,
So would that be
Hey, we got a
the
date
nine-
for you.
the 19th or the 21st? Or the 19th and the 21st?
If you're willing to hold those both, I want to take them both.
Yeah.
Anybody have conflicts?
I'm willing to hold them both.
yeah,
Okay.
sounds
Yes.
great to me.
Okay,
Good. Gives you some squish room.
yeah, definitely.
And it'll be 6 o'clock?
6 o'clock is,
So have we agreed that all meetings will be at 6 unless we agree to the
Yeah.
contrary?
Yeah, unless you
Sounds
need to
good.
change something, we just want you to meet, so whatever we need to accommodate the schedule.
I like the time.
All right, works for me.
Thank you.
yeah, and again, I mean, I apologize for the late breaking, handing you the paperwork right before the meeting, but my hope is to email this out to you earlier so that you have a chance to review it. But, if we get through this and there's questions, I mean, send them to either Tim or myself, and we're
And
happy to,
That goes for the whole committee,
yeah.
yeah.
I-
Um,
I
From-
feel that you're working under a lot of pressure, and am here to support you guys getting it done.
Appreciate that.
Get it right, don't rush it.
And if there's something that comes up from this meeting that you recall over the next meeting, let's track it down, we'll get the answer to it, and we'll, if it's superintendent in the back, or at least get the answer from the superintendent.
So, just kind of rules of engagement, if the committee has any questions, do you want to have them to funnel them through me to you guys? What's?
Well, it's good that everybody knows everybody else's
Right.
question.
Yeah.
I would say send them to me, and
Okay.
then we'll get the answer back out to the full committee.
Okay, does that work for everybody? To Tim?
To Tim?
Good. Good.
So our email correspondence, is it through the town website? Or
No,
do we-
you just, I'll email you directly from me tomorrow to each member, because I think I have all your emails.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll have my contact information, and then you can just correspond directly. Don't correspond amongst each other on matters related to your
There are
business,
some
but
rules of engagement.
you won't do
Well,
that.
that's what I'm trying to make sure that,
Yeah,
no.
but anybody can ask us any question, and we'll
Yeah.
respond. Good.
I like going through the chair for everybody, because that way you can filter, so he doesn't get three of the same questions kind of thing. But I also don't like to stop people from building a rapport with the town administrator if he would like that. So that's just the way I look at it.